story I love to tell. I probably told this. I think I told this at our conference last week.
The story is painful to me because we all have blind spots.
You know what story I'm getting ready to tell.
This is a painful story, but it's so helpful at the same time.
So there was a pastor who came to me and said, we've been stuck at 400 people for decades. And so I asked him question number one, not like I gave it today. I just said, well, what do you hope to accomplish in your city? And he gave me a very kind of a Pentecostal answer. He kind of even said it in a Pentecostal way. He said, oh, I want to reach people for the glory of God. He did the glory. He did that whole part, right? And I said, okay, great. So what are you really trying to say to me? He goes, I don't want to just pastor Christians. I want to reach lost people. I said, great. So that's your vision. So that, honestly, that's a good answer. The problem came is, what are you doing to accomplish that vision? This is question number 2 we're talking about today. And he goes, well, I don't know. What do you mean about that? I said, well, tell me about your service. Tell me about your Sunday service. Have you created something that lost people love to attend? He goes, I don't understand. I said, well, how long is your service? He goes, it's almost 2 hours. I said, well, yeah, well, that's long for a Christian.
Right.
All right. So I said, well, that's long. He goes, I know. I said, well, how much of that is your preaching? He goes, oh, about an hour. And I started laughing. And I said, bro, that's a long time. He goes, yeah, but I'm really good.
My goodness.
And I laughed. I belly laughed out loud. There's only 2 of us sitting in my office as we're having this conversation. I said, brother, and he pointed his finger in my face and said, I'm not changing that. And this is someone who has a great vision, but fell in love with a system that's never going to deliver that vision. And for that reason, he was stuck. And so he goes, well, I'm not changing that. He says, well, if you're not willing to change that, then I'm not able to help you, because you're not in love with your vision. You're not in love with your city. You're in love with the way you do church.
That's why that story is painful.
Yeah, exactly. And the way I say it is, Matt, there's often a disconnect between the vision we have and the systems we've created to deliver it. So what do? We have to find the right one. What's the right one? The one that works. So in other words, if no one's getting saved, well, then it's still the wrong one. If there are no lost people coming to faith, well, then it's still the wrong one. So we keep tweaking the system until it's delivering the vision. And in that, very important, don't fall in love with the system. So we have systems, and you would know those as well. So you already answered the know God, find freedom, discover purpose, make a difference. But we've created systems at Highlands that deliver it. I'll let you give that one as well.
Weekend services, small groups, growth track, which is how we assimilate people onto our teams, and then the dream team.
Yeah, so we're doing those 4 things. We're getting lost people saved in our weekend services. They're knowing God there. They're finding freedom in groups. They're discovering their purpose on a growth track. They're making a difference on a dream team. But that's only what we're doing today. If those things ever stopped working, we would find something else, because we're not in love with our system. We're in love with our vision.
And I know there's a certain personality type, and maybe I was this way a long time ago, that when you hear the word system, you immediately go, this is not going to allow me to create. This is going to make me be, inflexible, where I can't move and pivot. And systems do just the opposite. It gives you more room to create.
But truth be known,
all the time.
Truth be known, that's a system. You're whatever they're doing is still what they've come up with to deliver the vision, which leads us into question number 3, and it's an important one. I call this one the reality question.
Here's the measuring.
And that is it working?
Right.
Or say it this way, how are we doing? So we've got a vision. It's clear for the first time. Praise God for that. Now we have a system that we're hoping delivers it. Question 3 is going to tell you if it is or isn't. And that is, how are we doing? But you can't know how something's doing if you're not checking on how something's doing. The story I love to tell, my first assignment in ministry, I was a youth pastor at my home church in Baton Rouge. And one of my assignments was, we had this youth hall that had a basketball gym and, a little meeting space, a little place that he'd eat hamburgers and stuff like that. And one of my jobs as youth pastor was to come back whatever time at night, 10 or 11 o'clock, make sure all the doors were locked. And it was kind of on the back side of the property of the church. And I pull up to this youth building, and behind the youth building is a car with fogged up windows and people in it.
Every youth pastor has experienced this and so forth.
And I'm like, I'm livid. I'm ready, you know, because we don't do that right. And I remember going over that window and I'm banging on the window. Open this door right now. And the window came down, and it was two of our elders in our church. Like, these are like 60, 70-year-old folks. It's like one of our most... they like,
respected
I was
people.
like, oh, and we called him AJ. And back in those days, back in the old days, we called it brother AJ. I am so sorry. And he just smiled. He goes, it's quite all right. And he rolled the window right back up. Well, I found the brother. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I want to know how you can be married as long as you are,
right,
and y'all still go parking. And I'll never forget his answer. He says, I've never let it get to a place where it ever got unhealthy. I always ask, I've asked my wife for 60 years, how am I doing? How am I doing? And I don't think enough of us do this.
That's great.
Just how are we doing? Have we gotten so busy doing the next service that we forgot to stop and just kind of debrief what we just did? Because we could be repeating something that's not working. So how do we do that? This will be in your show notes, and this is too much to write down too fast, but I give people 5 things in order to kind of know how you're doing. And that's you have to collect data. So you have to have data. You have to know if you're going to have a great children's ministry, you need to know how many kids came.
Right.
And how many at different ages. If you're going to park cars well, you need to know how many cars come and how many spots you have. Okay, so that's just collecting data. The second is you have to give calendar time to evaluating results. We're good at this at Highlands. You know that.
We do it all the time.
Yeah, we have this, we call it the debrief. Sometimes we do it within hours of an event. How did we do? What did we change? Because if we wait till next year when we do the same event, we're going to forget what we would.
You only remember the positive.
Exactly. And we forget the tweaks that we wanted to make. So you have to give calendar time to evaluate results. Celebrate the wins. So in other words, don't be the person that's always dissatisfied. It's like, we could have done better. You know what? We did this part good. So let's have a party about that. Don't be that leader, by the way, that's never celebrating the few wins that you do have. Confront the facts. That's the hard one. Okay, there are some things that are not working. What are you willing to do? And the way I like to ask it, if somebody else had your job, what would they be willing to do to fix that? Because sometimes we're protecting some things. And then finally, get better. Just get better. And I always say, if you don't get better, you'll become a critic of those who are. So let's just get better. We can. That's the key to this third question.
We've had a whole lot of debriefs over pizza in the green room after services, after parties, after growth tracks, really asking, hey, how do we do? There is the personality type that would say, it sounds like you're just being all about the numbers, like you're just counting things. And we have a phrase, you love to say this, we celebrate this.
Yeah, you count what matters, because if you passed out right now and we call paramedics in, they're going to put a blood pressure cuff on you.
Right.
They're going to check your heart rate. They're going to check your temperature. We don't celebrate the blood pressure cuff. The blood pressure cuff is going to give us 2 sets of numbers that are going to tell us how to take care of you. But we can't do it if we don't get those numbers. So we don't celebrate that. We want you alive. And the same is true with everything that matters. You count what matters to you, and obviously people matter. On the other side of this are people.